Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and more. Follow Elliot in the Morning everywhere social at EITM Online.
From the Airborne Toxic event, please welcome Mikel, Jollett.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well today. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Isn't today a day off for you guys?
I mean, yeah. I don't know. Well, I don't know what a day off is if you're in a touring rock band. But we just did 7 in a row, and we're.
Well, it's not having to get up.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's that part of it.
I think he
It's
got
not-
up.
Definitely got the, or maybe haven't gone to bed yet. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an option.
No, or it's you know what it is. It's not sleeping on the bus. It takes a minute to get used to sleeping on a bus, especially we haven't toured in a while. So
Yeah.
it's like getting back to that kind of gentle sway as you go down the highway, and then you wake up at 3 a.m. and go, "We're going off a cliff," and then you go, "Oh no, I'm fine."
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. So you've done seven days straight.
Yep.
Which, by the way, for some people they'll go like, "Oh, poor Mikel."
No, it's not
rock
like
band
that.
7 days in a row. But that's a lot. That's a grind.
It's hard on your voice.
Yeah.
And also you're doing up multiple things a day usually, and so it's not just the one performance.
But didn't you also, and if I have this wrong, you'll correct me. Didn't you also last night? So last night was at the 9:30 Club.
Yeah, that's right.
So doors open. As the doors open and everybody was filing in for a sold out show, as I would expect that it is. Didn't you leave the venue to go do a book event?
Yeah, I had to go do a book event right last night for the paperback of my book was just released, and so yeah.
Right. And I guess there would be no way to do that before the doors open.
No.
Let's kind of stretch or push ourselves for as much time as possible.
That's right. So yeah, we went and I did a book reading at East City Bookshop in DC, and it was great. You go from this very kind of staid, buttoned up environment where you're reading from literature and people are asking you questions about metaphors, and then you're in a rock club, come in, the band's half drunk, yeah, it's gonna take the stage, all right.
Why am I wrong? Is this a long time between the book coming out for the paperback release, or
Yeah.
was it just did COVID get in the way?
COVID got in the way, so it would have been a year, but it's been 2 years instead because of COVID.
And so is this the real? When did the book come out? I'm trying to remember.
Came out in May of 2020.
Yeah, because we talked to him in June of 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I love the book.
Oh, thank you very much.
The book was so good.
Oh, that's really nice of you.
The
Thank
book
you.
was, and I was looking forward to talking to you for the book, and then when I read the book, I got really mad at a lot of people in your life, and
Me
then I got really mad at myself because you are just a much better person than I am.
I don't know about that.
You
Don't jump
find
to conclusions.
you find such a way to be cool with those people. I don't even know those people and I hate them. But then I think back to people in my life who, and again, I'm not comparing my life to yours.
Go ahead.
I got nothing. I wasn't born
fun.
in a cult. None of that. But people that you feel wronged you pretty well. And I love grudges. But you have found such a way to be cool with people.
Yeah, it's weird. I think I put some distance there. I was just talking about this last night in the book event that in our culture, I feel like we focus a lot on forgiveness, and I feel like it's maybe not the right thing to focus on. I mean, I think holding a grudge isn't necessarily bad. And your whole thing, I want to hold grudges.
Right.
It's that, there's this idea oh, somebody hurt you or took advantage of you when you're a kid. Oh, you've forgiven them. You must be this transcendent human being. You've forgiven someone. With such horseshit. Can I say horseshit?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
nor
so
can you
sorry.
say
It's
it
okay.
twice.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
He said it, then said it again. Can I say that?
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But just rule of thumb: no S, no F, or anything with a C.
Got you.
Got it.
All right. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry about that.
No, that's all right. No problem at all. But anyway, but what you were saying is oh, you're full of forgiveness and you're transcendental and
Right,
that's all.
and people are just you've forgiven. That's great, and it's just it's not how we really work as human beings. I feel and there's this rush to it, and it's how do you that really that's not where it's at. The only question is it's not who's to blame. It's not whether you it's just how do you live now. These things happen to you. Okay, how do you live now? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your relationships to look like? How do you want your career to look like? How do you want to relate to the world?
Right.
How do you make it so that you're not such a pain to other people around you?
Sure.
And forgiveness and blame don't really have anything to do with that question. That question is kind of a different question.
Okay, I like that. I like that as an answer, but you did still find a way to forgive those people.
Ish.
Okay, all
I'd
right.
say a little bit. Maybe it came off more in the book like that. I don't know.
But now, is it hard? So again, and I'm not going to focus on the book the whole time, but I really did. The book was so well done.
Oh,
When
thank you very much.
when you wrote the book, and should we thumbnail the book real quick for somebody who doesn't know? You're born into a cult. With your mom and dad,
Yeah.
but not being really raised by your mom and dad. You're
No.
kind of like in a, is it fair to call it like an orphanage
Yeah,
wing
that's what it
of
was.
of the cult?
Yeah.
And the book starts with, I can't remember exactly how old you are at that point, but the book kind of opens with your mom grabbing you and your brother in the middle of the night, and it was a famous cult, Synanon.
Synanon. That's right.
And your mom is waking you up in the middle of the night. Literally, the clothes on her back, the
Right.
pajamas on your back and your brother's back, and Bonnie, who was kind of at the cult and worked there, throwing some crap in a bag and hauling ass
Yeah.
with them chasing you.
Right.
And I remember asking, your life changes if they stop you before you get off those
Oh,
grounds.
absolutely. No question. So it was called Synanon, and my dad went there to get clean. It started off as a drug rehabilitation facility, and he went there to get clean when he got out of prison from heroin. And then all these what are called lifestylers moved in, which were like the hippies and the free thinkers, whatever. And that was my mom. She was a master's in Berkeley person, had been part of the free speech movement. So they moved there, and it actually did some good for a long time. And then, of course, it became a cult.
Right.
And then we were all put into, it was an orphanage. I don't know how else to put it. And we were raised there. We didn't know who our folks even were, really. And then she shows up one day and says, we got to go. And my brother and I, and she had like a shaved head. Everyone had shaved heads. And she's like, and so we left and we escaped, and these people were sort of chasing us, and we lived on the run for a while. And, we'd never been in a restaurant. We'd never seen a building like a skyscraper. We'd never seen, a city. We didn't know, so just leaving there was just the world just seemed so big.
Sure.
Because we were just these little kids that had no idea about any of it. And then eventually we went to live in Oregon, and
Right.
there's all that.
And then, but like even the leaving part and just getting set up, it's not like your mom and your dad, for that matter, had squirreled away millions of dollars.
Oh no,
that
we were
was
flat broke.
like
flat broke.
no people who were broke were rich compared to you guys.
Yeah, we would make furniture out of like old clothes, and my mom she would try to be like, well, we have it better than others because we can make a couch any shape we want, and we'd just pile clothes. And we had like a little burner, and we would make soup on it, and all our clothes were, hand-me-downs, which wasn't that big a deal, I guess. And we're on like government cheese, the big 5-pound blocks of government cheese you get at the church bread line. We would go there and get that, and yeah, very broke because the cult took all the money too. Everyone that left there kind of left penniless, and so yeah, we were just like. We raised rabbits for meat because otherwise we didn't have enough money for meat, so we had to learn to.
Oh, and I remember
They were terrible. That's a terrible. Sometimes I go to a fancy restaurant now because, like, you go out sometimes and they'll have like rabbit on the menu. It's like, why do you have rabbit on? It's like a big rat. It's a big cute rat. I don't want to. I don't want to eat a big cute rat. Oh yeah, I just feel like you're gonna get like a bit in your teeth or something. Oh,
right. But that was a point in your life where, as a teenager, your mom had met this other guy,
Yeah.
and you guys were, again, no money. You had nothing.
Right.
And before school, when it was freezing, you'd go outside, you'd clean up rabbit S from all over the place. You'd have to empty their water, change their water, feed them.
That's right.
And then some of them beat with a bat, skin them,
Yep.
and eat them.
That's right.
That was the Jollett dinner for the day.
That's right. That was my job too. So my stepdad, my first stepdad was he was a nice guy, but he was an absolute stone cold drunk, and he would disappear. And when he disappeared, someone had to take care of those rabbits. And my brother was this angry kid, and my mom she dealt with some kind of depression, mental health issues. So it would just be me. Like sometimes I feel like those moments, you write a book because even at the time, I remember being like 7 years old. It's 5 a.m. We're in Oregon. The ground is frozen. I'm out there shoveling rabbit S. And even at the time, I was like, man, this isn't right. Come on now, what's going on here? And sometimes you write a book because you want to like bring others and have them see that scene, like they can stand there next to you, go like, yeah, what are you doing? It's 5 a.m. Go to sleep, and when you wake up, I don't know, have breakfast, play with your Luke Skywalker action figure or something. I don't know, man.
And then remind me, there were two other scenes in the book that really bothered me, and one of them, and I remember talking to you when we talked initially a couple of years ago when the book came out. I don't have a great relationship with my mom.
I'm sorry.
And I remember being envious of your ability and the one part to kind of move on with your mom. And there's one part in the book where, and I don't remember the exact order of everything. You'll know exactly what it is, where you guys have just left. You're living in some house. The cult has sent people to come find you.
Yeah, that's right.
And you are out on the street. I don't want to say playing with kids, but playing around kids.
Right, that's right.
And somebody from the cult shows up and beats a family member. Was it your uncle?
It was my mom's friend who lived with us. He was kind of like
Kind of like your uncle,
yeah.
right? Beats him unconscious.
That's right.
Right in front of you.
That's right.
And you see it, you witness it, it scares the hell out of you. You spend years terrified, anxiety, wetting the bed, the whole thing. But when you went in and told your mom what you saw, the first thing she says to you is, Mikel, you're making that up. Like none of that ever happened.
That's right. Yeah.
And I remember, and I got so mad at her.
Yeah, I understand.
Very, very mad at her to take that moment and go, no, you're what's wrong with you? And but then at the end, I remember getting mad at you, going, I don't possess that to be able to go, you know what? I'm cool. I can move beyond that.
Well, I would say so. Two things. One, yeah, she suffered from some mental health issues, and yeah, we were always treated as these like ancillary things. No one ever asked us like, how was this for you?
Mm-hmm.
No one ever said, what was it like? It was like if you rescued a kid from an orphanage in like Romania or something, a lot of what you would do is be like, hey, you just left this orphanage that you were at 4 years. All kinds of kids were beaten and abused and raped and molested. You name it. And you know, if that had happened, you would deal with that. You'd be like, okay, you were in this orphanage. We got to deal with that. Let's talk it through. Let's think about all the issues. And it was never even brought up. No one ever even asked us, what was it like for you? It was all stuff that had happened to them,
Mm-hmm.
and no one even stopped us. So yeah, it's infuriating that way. And then by the end, I don't know if forgiveness is the way I would put it. I think the conclusion I come to is just that I wish her well.
Sure.
And you know that I don't want any harm to befall her, but I just have distance from her in my life because she's not capable. She has like what's called cluster B, which is like this family of kind of mental disorders, and like she's just not capable of reflecting on it and understanding it, and I just can't have her be close to me in my life.
Right.
But the further away she is from my life, the more I can kind of see her. There's this great thing that Mary Carr, who's this great memoir writer, says that when you write about characters you have difficult relationships with, it's best to see them as God sees them. And the idea being is that like try to see them as people who things have happened to them, and those things that happened to them shaped them, and they only have so much control. And so the further away she is from my life, the easier it is to see her that way. Her mother was very abusive. Her mother was very drunk. She was neglected as a kid. She ended up in a cult. She ended up penniless and alone and ostracized by the cult. So, you know, lots of bad things happened to her. So when I think of it that way, I think, well, okay, I can't hate her for that.
Right.
And I want her to do well. Also, I can't have that energy in my life.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that part I get.
Right.
That part I totally get. So the when you did the book, so here's what I wanted to ask, kind of the long way of getting to now that it's out in paperback. When the book originally came out, I have to imagine it was a hard book to write. That it was, I don't know. I mean, listen, you're famous. You're the lead singer in a band that sells out on the road, and people know the Airborne Toxic event. So I would imagine that there was also a little bit of like, do I want people like? People know me as this guy up on stage, but they don't know this whole story in the back.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's got to be a ton of vulnerability.
Oh man, it was crazy. So when I was writing the book, you know, I was just sort of reading. I'd done a lot of work to try and figure out how I was going to write it, and I engaged a lot of authors. You know, Frank McCourt and Angela's Ashes, and The Glass Castle by Jeanette Wells, and The Liars Club by Mary Carr. Anyway, and these memoirs, and they're good because people are honest and they engage in tough issues, and they really are real. And if somebody's just writing something on the surface, you're not going to want to read it. So part of the rule of memoir writing, if you want to write literary nonfiction, is you have to kind of put yourself out there and really get into, like, what do you think? What really did happen? Put the reader right on your shoulder at 7 years old, standing there with a knife in your hand and a bleeding rabbit, like whatever it is, right?
Right.
So when I was writing the book, all I thought about was that. How do I write the best book I can? It was very academic in that way. Like, how do I didn't even think about it. And then about 2 months before the book came out, I suddenly went, wow, that's a lot of personal information. Okay. And I was freaking out for months. I freaked out. I had a hard time sleeping, and I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And there's this feeling like everyone's going to hate you, which is weird because it's kind of, I think it's the opposite, but that everyone's going to hate you.
That everybody would hate you because of what was in the book?
Yeah, because they know your secrets, and it just feels, you feel so exposed, and you don't want people to have opinions about things that are so, I don't know, hard to deal with and talk about and think about, So,
did you think it would hurt the band?
no, not at all. But the thought I had, what was interesting is when it came out, it was like this relief.
Right.
There was like this sense of, well, everyone knows my secrets anyway. There's nothing to hide. I couldn't hide anything if I wanted to. So I guess, yeah, it's all out. And it's like that expression, an honest man doesn't need to remember very much. You just kind of show up and say what you say and be what you are, and you don't have to figure out how to put on a mask and how to present yourself all the time, and just try to be the honest version of yourself, because everyone knows all your damn secrets anyway.
Did you feel 2 years? So you said normally it's a year for paperback. And now it was 2 because of COVID, and so now you're on the tour, you're on the road. The Airborne Toxic event is playing shows. You're doing book events. Were you kind of hoping? And I mean, listen, it's not like any of us expected this to go on as long as it did, or even that it was coming when you started writing, that you would be done with it at this point, or are you still happy for it to be a part of going out?
It's great. So Hollywood Park came out in May 2020, and then the tour had to be postponed. The book still came out, and it was. I didn't expect the book to have the pop cultural impact that it did. I think I thought I'd written a good book, and I was proud of it and everything. But I didn't know if it would cross over into pop culture the way it did. I didn't expect
and it did in a big way.
It did. It got excerpted in Time magazine. It got excerpted in People magazine, of all things. I was on like CBS This Morning, and Good Morning America was calling, and all these. It got a nice critical acclaim, and I thought maybe I'll get a nice review in the New York Times or whatever, but I didn't expect all these like other things to happen with it. So, but then COVID was happening, so I was so excited, and then it was like nothing. And I'd spent years, and then it was like, oh my God, this beautiful thing I tried to make and I poured my heart into came out, and nothing. I think a lot of artists felt that way, but then you can't complain about it because people are dying.
Yeah, right.
And people are losing their businesses, and they're having relatives dying, or they're getting long COVID, or they're getting really sick, or kids can't go to school. And so everyone's got something, so you feel like you can't complain. And, relatively speaking, I was very lucky. I didn't even get COVID during the whole time, and I didn't, I was able to come out and do this a couple years later. So, it's important to have some perspective, and now it's just a joy. It feels like a joy. I mean, we were all just locked in a room for 2 years, right? So, particularly for musicians, to be out on the road, there were so many nights during the pandemic. I just wanted to be out playing a show.
Sure.
I just wanted to have that moment with the audience and that connection. And I wanted to have some moments with readers who had read the book, because I'd never really just looked into someone's eyes who'd read the book. I'd never had that experience because we were all just in COVID the whole time.
Sure.
So it was this weirdly huge moment in my life. And then, locked inside. And so now it's great. I love being able to talk about the book, and I love being able to play the songs on the record and everything.
So 2 things. The when you talk about how the book kind of crossed over, friends of mine who are not music people at all, and not necessarily even like, what did you call it? Bookworms?
Yeah.
Were not only did they love the book, but it was one of those books that like people would go out and buy like 4, 5, 6 copies and go, I know someone who would like this. And I feel like it is one of those books where somebody would go, you know what? I know someone who needs this book.
That's
so it
very
was
kind.
really nice in that in that world. But then I want to go back to something you just said, where you wanted to be able to look in somebody's eyes who has read the book.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing?
Oh, people are just very grateful, and I think they feel the way I feel when I met like Tara Westover after I read Educated, because she and I were friendly for a little bit. And
you know what? I gotta start dropping author names like you do it, and you come off like, oh well, you know. But I talked to Brad Meltzer. I talked to him.
I'm friends with Brad Meltzer.
Oh, so am I. I bet I've known him longer than you have. Give me one. Give me one, for God's sakes.
He's the nicest guy in publishing, first of all.
Yeah, he was in here not too long ago.
Oh, was he? Yeah, he's a friend. Like, we talk. He was actually someone who was really helpful because I'd written the book just...
God damn it, I can't even drop Meltzer's
name. You could drop Meltzer all you like.
Can't. It's like, oh, I'm friends with him. All right.
He's a really nice man.
Bert Kreischer.
There's one. Okay.
Okay, good. Got him.
Categorize him an author?
He wrote a book. I read his book. He wrote a book. You know, it's like when I met. Anyway, but you were saying Meltzer was helpful.
He was so helpful.
He's a great man.
Because I had just written this book alone in a room. I didn't have an agent or a publisher or an editor or anything. I just wrote on this huge Microsoft Word document for 3 years. Edit it, and you know, a lot of people had said you're supposed to write like a chapter and an outline and then try and get. And I was like, no, I didn't want to do that because the thing I kept telling myself was like, you're a writer, write your book. Go write your book. Let it be as hard as it's going to be and figure it out and answer all the questions yourself. You can answer all these questions. You don't want someone else to answer. They're going to give you answers that aren't as good as the ones you're going to seek out by yourself. So once I had this huge document in this book, Brad was so helpful and supportive about, okay, here's the process and here's how you're going to try and find an agent and here's how you're going to try and find a publisher.
How'd you run into him?
He's friends with a friend of mine named Michael Green. He's a screenwriter.
Oh, wow.
Who writes, he co-wrote, I'm blanking. God, Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner.
Oh, okay.
And he co-wrote. What's the Wolverine movie?
Wolverine?
No, but the one that's really like the literary one.
Literary.
The one that's like kind of like an indie film. You know what I mean?
Wolverine.
It's gonna
just go with Wolverine. Quit trying to be so artsy.
Anyway, so he's a good friend of mine from college, screenwriter. He introduced me to Brad, so yeah.
And then there is the music Hollywood Park that went with the book. Now I told you early on I would not listen to any of the music until I read the book because I felt like the music was going to spoil what was in the book. But I and again, being out on the road, I had to assume it is being met as well. Airborne fans, or maybe somebody that hasn't read the book, the same way.
Yeah, it's so cool. That's the thing. I really love being able to play shows, and we'll open with the song Hollywood Park, which is the title track, and the whole place is singing along. And that's not usually true for a new record, and certainly not usually true for something that isn't a single or something. And there's 3 or 4 songs on that record that the whole place knows, and it's so gratifying because I wrote the record. I wasn't thinking about, I got picked up. I wrote sometime around midnight years ago, alone in a room, and then got picked up into the major label hit machine. And there's all these guys who are like, "Write me a hit, kid." There's still a lot of guys like that in the music industry. And you're like, "What is it, like 1985?" They're like, "Write me a hit, make the downbeat of the chorus, the title of the song. Can you write me like a Wang Chung tonight? That was a hit. I need a hit like that, kid." And I'm like, "What? I don't know. I hate you and what?" And you know what I mean? And there's these dinosaurs, and so they were pushing me to do that for years and years. And then with this record, I just couldn't care. My dad had died, and I was so sad about it. And I just had to write about it, and I was writing about my childhood. And then in the midst of all this, I suddenly had to make music for the same reason I had to do it when I was 15, which is like it was the only way I could really understand my life. I could play a song, and it was like, okay, I have to. Then I can kind of be in it, and I can sort of wrap my head around it and think about it, and then sort of swim in it all at the same time. And that's why you really feel compelled to write things as an artist. So
when you were 15, were you writing because you were angry, or were you just writing just to try to make something make sense?
I don't know. I think it always, the second someone handed me a guitar, my first thought was I have to write a song. It wasn't like I have to go learn a bunch of songs. My first thought was I have to write a song.
Your first thought wasn't I don't know how to play this?
Well, yeah, okay, that was my first thought.
Okay.
But once I learned
wow, you're really good.
Once I learned some chords, it was always about songwriting, and it was always about trying to express something. I think it's because so many things weren't expressed. A lot of these things that happened in the book Hollywood Park was things that I didn't really talk about with people that much because you don't want to bring it up. And I think we all put on masks in different situations, different friends or at a job or something. You don't want, you present a certain version of yourself.
Yeah, right.
And so I wouldn't bring up I learned very early on not to bring up, oh yeah, I was born in a cult and raised in an orphanage, and my dad was in prison, and my mom's mentally ill. That's a lot at a party.
It's a lot.
So let's take Mikel off the bar mitzvah list. Let's not have him there. That'll save a seat. Nice kid, but
but man, he just
Kinda
keeps
heavy.
bringing up that cult. Right, exactly.
Oh, we get it. You were born in a cult. I'm sure there would also be people that would go like, Mikel was not born in a cult. He's clearly like starving for attention.
Right,
Like that's
right.
not your everyday run of the mill. Here's what we bring up.
So I never brought it up from the time I was about 11 years old.
But also part of it was you were in hiding for so. I
Yeah.
don't want to say hiding. For
No,
so
we
long,
were in hiding.
But you
for
couldn't.
sure.
So you couldn't when you first started interacting with kids. That was the giveaway of we're in trouble.
No, you're absolutely right. And so we always sort of knew instinctively not to talk about it. And then we learned as we got older, it's my brother and I, just to kind of, you sort of edge around certain questions. And people say, where are you from? You're like, oh, like up and down the West Coast. Oh, what were your parents? They were hippies.
Because that sounds romantic when you
right,
phrase it
and
that
also
way.
it's easier than trying to get into all of this kind of stuff. So I never brought it up, and so now dealing with it all, being sort of more like open about it kind of feels good because then people are really accepting and people are really kind and it's kind of like I didn't want to tell the story if I had to tell a version of the story through someone else's eyes. And there was something about being able to just like, all right, I will tell you any story about my life. I'll tell you about my worst moment as long as I can create the context. And
Right.
as a writer, I have hundreds of pages to create that context and to think through what it is. And then it can kind of be like you can reason with people. They're sitting there on your shoulder in the middle of that moment, and they're like, well, I see what you're dealing with there. God, there's this going on and this other thing over here. And so it feels like kind of okay. And so something about writing a book makes it all just kind of feel like, it happened, And a lot of the things that happen too, I think it sounds like in my story, there's a lot of stuff that's really, fantastical, the prisons and cults and alcoholism and early deaths and violence and all this kind of stuff. But the hardest part was just loneliness. The hardest part was just having alcoholics that were parents. And, I think a lot of people are dealing with that. People that are maybe in a really nice house in the suburbs are dealing with the dad's a narcissist, mom's a drunk.
Right.
But they put on a certain face to the world and they feel neglected. And those are actually the hardest things. So even though my story has these really big things, I think the rest of it's just the same stuff I think a lot of people deal with.
Are there?
And I've heard that a lot from readers. They've been like, yeah, I really relate. And even though they're like, well,
the
I didn't
facade
have...
of the house is a little bit different, but what goes
Right.
on inside is exactly the same.
Your emotional reality is your emotional reality. And I think we all deal with that. We all create versions of ourselves. We all wear masks in different things. So in that way, I don't think my story is that different from most people.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. All right, let me do this. Let me take a quick break. Mikel Jollett is with us from the Airborne Toxic event, Hollywood Park, now out in paperback. Obviously, the Airborne Toxic event on the road. Quick break. More with Mikel next.
Connect with Elliot in the Morning on Facebook at EITM Online.
It's Elliot in the Morning. Mikel Jollett is with us from the Airborne Toxic event. Off today. Boston is next.
Yeah.
And I like that little factoid we learned. Anybody who plays the House of Blues in Boston gets a free tour of Fenway.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
really
not
fun.
bad. So they take all artists if you want to go.
If you want to go, you talk to the house manager and they'll call them over and they'll give you a little tour. It's great because it's closed and you get to walk around and see the stadium. And
Right.
It's fun.
Yeah, I still, even if I were a famous rock star, I still wouldn't step foot in Fenway.
I like your face.
No, but I
Why would
mean,
someone want to do
that's a
that?
nice perk. I
Yeah,
guess
it
if you
is.
were into it, that would be a nice perk.
If you like that terrible team, that awful team with those awful traditions from that city we don't even name.
No, but you know what the weirdest thing is? Love the city of Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could never go to Fenway. Could never step
What's
foot
Bill
in
Burr's
Fenway.
line on Boston? It's like a racist San Francisco. Oh man.
All right, let's
Sorry,
we'll
Boston.
play something and then we'll talk. What are we going to play?
I'm gonna play Faithless.
Faithless. All right, very good. Here's Mikel Jollett.
All right, my voice is a little shot after 15 performances in the last 7 days, so we're gonna try our best here. I wake up early, my head ain't right. It's a fever dream of what we did last night. I flex my fingers and feel my age. 15 minutes till we take the stage, and I call you when I wake up drunk. My arms are cold and my head is sunk. They say the lights go out at 10 p.m. Make sure you're okay by then. And the signs, all the signs, they carry me far from home, but you can't give away something you never owned. You owned. And oh, desire burns like fire. Give me one single second to breathe. Turn off the lights before I leave. Our fate is faithless, floating, weightless, looking for lost souls like us. We never had a choice but to give up in the secrets we keep, buried inside our lungs. It's no secret to me. We were just far too young. Woo. But you can't give something and take it back. Pull this knife out from my neck. Don't tell me that you did your best. God only knows it was a lucky guess. And now all of my friends are dropping out. It's way too quiet when your head's so loud, like falling into empty space. Sit and feel my heartbeat race. Oh, desire burns like fire. Give me one single second to breathe. I'll turn off the lights before I leave. Our fate is faithless, floating, weightless, looking for lost souls just like us. We never had a choice but to give up. Give up. And the secrets we keep, buried inside our lungs. It's no secret to me. We were just far too dumb. Oh, desire burns like fire. Give me one single second to breathe. I'll turn off the lights before I leave. Our fate is faithless, floating, weightless, looking for lost souls like us. We never had a choice but to give up.
Mikel Jollett from the Airborne Toxic Event is with us. Now that Faithless, not on the Hollywood Park record.
That's not on the Hollywood Park record.
So that leads me to believe that we have a whole buttload of new music that's ready to go.
Yeah, soon. I think early next year we're going to put out a next record.
What is? Can you explain something to me? What is? I know I'm gonna mispronounce this. Medici?
Oh, Medici. Yeah.
Medici. Yeah. What is that?
Medici is a new community that we just formed with our fans, and it's kind of like a combination between a community and a VIP live experience and a new way of releasing music. And the idea was we wanted to there's so many what are called intermediaries, these companies that come between you and your fans, and whether it's like Spotify or Facebook. Like I literally have to pay people to reach them on Facebook.
Right.
Every time you play a song on Spotify, the artist gets 1/3 of a cent per stream or something like that.
Oh, dude, that's not bad.
1/3 of a cent.
It's just like awful. And so we were trying to figure out like, okay, the whole industry is and there's this like the Spotification of music going on, like where it's
What
like,
is that?
The algorithm chooses songs based on whether or not people click away, and so people are trying to always capture you in that first 20 seconds. And there's sort of like this, it's changed a lot of songwriting when people are putting choruses on the top and these big hooks on the top. And I don't know about you, I want to hear someone's heart. I want to hear an artist be an artist. I want to hear what they have to say. And sometimes that's like a 2-minute noise intro. Sometimes it's going to be something that's sort of nuanced and builds, and it's really hard to do that. So Spotify is really good at measuring like how well a ton of people kind of like a song, but it's not good at like what about a smaller group of people who love a song.
Right.
And those are all the artists I like. Those are the people. And I always compare like Radiohead to Meghan Trainor. Like Radiohead and Meghan Trainor do the same numbers on Spotify. Who's more culturally important, Radiohead or Meghan Trainor? No diss on Meghan Trainor. She's a lovely woman.
Oh, that was not the answer? Okay. All right. All right.
But that there had to be a way to put this connection that people have at the heart with artists at the heart of what we're doing. So Medici's kind of like our solution to that.
But did you create that?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that's all you?
Yeah, I spent about a year researching and talking to tons of different people and learning more about. I started with like NFTs. I was sort of curious NFTs, and I very quickly was like, I don't want to do NFTs. And then started thinking a lot about community and thinking about how to like create different ways of just taking all these huge corporations out of the middle and instead finding ways you can just release to a smaller audience. You can just have the smaller audience interact. You can form communities with your fans. And I feel like a lot of this is stuff that used to happen with blogs, and before that with zines and also record stores. And I don't know about you, I used to go to shows because I just want to see what jackets people were rocking. I wanted to see what
in the audience?
Yeah. When I was in the audience, I would go to shows because I wanted to see what are the other fans doing? What do they think about this song? And it was this great culture and a lot.
Because you were all there, obviously, because you had something in common. You liked the music.
Exactly, but there was something in you that
but how does
drew you to the
Mikel
band.
fan look differently than the Diane fan?
Exactly, and
Gotcha.
so you wanted to go and just be part of it and see, like, all right, I'm going to go to a Pavement show, or I'm going to go to, a Radiohead show. All right, we're smoking clove cigarettes and we're dyeing our hair purple. Okay, what's going on?
I'd kill for a clove right now. That sounds so good.
So great. So, like, all of this culture just kind of went away, and it's all just like the algorithm, it's all just, which is a form of AI. So I just feel like I don't want the robots to win. With Medici, it's like we're trying to do something different that's more about the culture around the music and more about creating connection between artists and listeners, and it's been really great.
I was going to say, I would assume diehard fans of the Airborne Toxic event, or I don't maybe even casual fans, but somewhere within those
right.
two would be very into it.
I was surprised. So I spent about a year trying to work on this thing, and I was hoping people would like it. I didn't expect. They love it. The fans love it, and I love it because you post something on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and between all of that, it's probably like 1 million followers or something. But I'd rather post something on our Medici. We have it's an app, a site, and it's also a social media thing, and I would rather, because it's like I could post almost anything I want, and I know the people there are psyched to get it. And immediately, the way we set it up, like I'll post something and there's like 100 comments, and we're interacting and we're talking about it, and it's just a way to kind of stay close. And it's just it's been a real joy. It's fun and it's great, and the fans love it. We love it, so we're psyched. I didn't expect it to be so beloved so quickly. They love it.
Didn't you just put out a song that way? Like a song that
you really do your research. I
haven't heard the song. I haven't signed up yet.
You have like the deep cuts of my career here and like of what we've been up to. This is great. Yeah. So there's a song I wrote about Bruce Springsteen called "Our Own Thunder Road," and it's going to be the opening track of our next record. And we're thinking about like, what should we do with this song? We have this song. It's done. It's mixed. It's already ready to go. And I was like, why don't we just give it to the Medici people? Give it to like the people who are sort of part of our community. And it's like that's like hearsay in the music industry.
Well, I was going to say, aren't you afraid that because at first I was like, oh, but then I know myself, I'll do it after you're gone, because I didn't want to be the dick that goes, yeah, well, here it is. That would be my fear, is that some a-hole is going to go, oh, okay, well, this is a good song. And now what was supposed to be for, I don't want to call it a private community, but that wasn't what it was intended to be.
No, it's going to have like a broad discovery moment as well. It's just, this is kind of like our smaller group. It's kind of like in the 50s, there was this thing, right? You had your radio single and then you had your album. And that was true up until Napster, right? There were two different things. One was for discovery, because you had this single that went everywhere. And then people who really loved you would buy the album. And then Napster came along, and it was like we all decided music was not worth anything anymore. And then everyone just kind of went, all right. And now you're supposed to do your song itself as discovery, because Spotify doesn't really pay you anything. Apple Music doesn't really pay anything. And then you got to do your Facebook Live. Oh, what's that for? Oh, that's also for discovery. Oh, you got to do your Instagram. Oh, that's also for discovery. Well, now you have to become a TikTok celebrity too. Oh, that's also for discovery. And there's no moment where people are just like, where's the record?
Right.
Where's the thing that's like where you make money, and there's this exchange, and people are kind of like psyched to be part of this more detailed thing.
Write me a single kid.
Give me a single kid. What's this Medici? What's this crap? Fan relationships? I want the hook at the top. We're going to get the top of that Spotify playlist, kid. We're going to go number 1 on our M scores, okay?
You know what I mean? As opposed to just write me your song, sing me your heart. And so like Our Thunder Road was like, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to give it to these people. They can't download it, but they probably could pirate it if they really wanted to. I don't care.
Right.
And you know what? I think it's fine. Like I talked to my manager, and his first reaction was like, whoa, what's going to happen if we do that? And then we thought about it. Well, it's probably not going to be a single, so it's not burned in that way. It's probably just going to be mostly something that fans are going to love. Let's just put it out to the fans. And they were psyched. Again,
Were they really?
Oh, they were so excited. And it was really cool because they're like the people who really understand your music because they've been close with you and part of your life for 10, 15 years, whatever. And then to be able to give them this gift of this song and get their reaction early. And it's all about my mixed feelings about Bruce Springsteen. And
What are your mixed feelings on Bruce?
he's just done everything so well. So the song's about how like Thunder Road's like the best song ever written in rock and roll. That's my opinion. I think it's the best song ever written in rock and roll. And it's heartbreaking.
You like that? I just shot a look at you
Okay.
like, oh, okay.
All right, dude.
Yeah, like
Whatever.
It's no Rosalita, but whatever.
Yeah, it's no creep. But yeah. Hello, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Bro. There's the entire Pixies catalog, my friend.
I just feel like you went with that, and I looked at you like, well, Mikel's stupid.
Yeah, what an idiot. 1975, huh? You think we peaked in 75? Wow. All right, whatever. Medici.
I did say, what did I say earlier, though? I did say this earlier. If somebody said write down, and for me, the my 50 favorite songs that they were, what did I say earlier, Diane?
You said it was beyond that.
Somewhere around midnight would be on that
thank
list.
you.
Would be
That's
on
really
that
nice of
list.
you.
I mean,
appreciate
it's no
that.
Thunder Road. Let's
It's
be
no
real
Thunder
honest.
Road, but well, so the mixed feelings are just that like he does this thing, and then the line is just, I can't write about that road. That road doesn't go anywhere for me. You have to be someone who really believes that the road goes somewhere. You have to have this romantic idea that you're going to get on this road, you're going to get out.
Right.
And that road goes somewhere. But people who grew up the way I grew up, there's just more like sort of nihilistic kind of punk rock, more like anger. And you just think, yeah, what's down that road? There's nothing down that road. I don't believe in Chevrolet. I don't believe in brighter days. That's the line. I don't believe we get away. And we're just caught here beneath this broken thumb. Our eyes glaze, our bodies numb, with hearts on fire, and this heart's on fire. Anyway, so it's all about kind of playing with that idea that you can't really believe in things, and there's a frustration because you want to write. I do anyway. Want to write like Bruce Springsteen, but I don't believe in the world the way he did, and so all I can write about is just how broken I feel. And so then the song proceeds to be about how broken I feel, and that's like our own Thunder Road. Like we're not the ones who get to see the graduation gown. We're the ghosts in the eyes of those boys who fell. That's what we are.
Right.
We're those ghosts. We're not the people that get to go to the dance and see the prom dress. We're the ghosts in the eyes of the kids that didn't make it, which is something he references in the song. And so that's what it's about.
What is I was reading something where you talked about how you fell in love with music, and I may have this paraphrased a little bit wrong. You fell in love with music like listening to The Cure.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
listening to Robert Smith.
Robert Smith, yeah, absolutely.
What was the start of that?
I was in 5th grade, and I had like
Is this where you knew that you were going to be a musician?
Oh no, I didn't. I still don't know about that.
You still don't know that you're going to be a musician?
I'm not sure. Maybe I'll.
You're a
become
couple
musician.
records and tours late.
I always feel like a charlatan as a musician. Like as a writer, I feel very comfortable. Like I feel comfortable with words and sentences and books. As a musician, I always feel a little bit like, don't these people know I'm just a nerd? Like musicians.
So
are
like
cool.
when you're up on stage and it's a sold out show,
Yeah.
and people are going nuts and people
Yeah.
are singing the songs and everything.
Yeah.
You're uncomfortable at that point?
Sometimes, yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God.
Some nights you're like, yeah, this is awesome. But a lot of the nights I have just like inner monologue, just, just trying to put on the show, just trying to carry the show, and just think at any minute it's all going to fall apart. I have this feeling that everywhere we go, no one's going to show up. And my managers will be like, no, it's sold out. I remember the first time we played Coachella, we played like the main stage, and I like threw up behind the main stage of Coachella. And I expected when I walked out, nobody would be there. Like the field would have just cleared because they're like, no one wants to see.
Did you peek out at any point, like during the day, and go like, "Wow, there's a lot of people here,"
No.
and you thought every one of them would have gotten in their car and been like,
just like they went to another
I
stage, they went to
swear.
the Mojave tent or whatever, and they weren't just gonna care. And then we walk out, and there's all these people, which was worse in a way too, because then I just felt really self-conscious. Like, wow, there's a lot of people here.
But is it a feeling you're going to disappoint them, or is it just you can't imagine that? So take The Cure, and I want to get back to that story.
Yeah.
But take The Cure, take Thunder Road, take whatever it is that what music means to you, that it's hard for you to imagine other people feeling the same way about your music.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not Robert Smith. That's the thought, and it's.
I like
what's
the Airborne Toxic event more than The Cure.
Oh well, that's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next time you come through, you'll have one person at the show.
That one person.
I'll be there.
I'll be like, all right, now I can
great.
just tease my hair.
Of all
out,
people,
wear
it's
some
Elliot.
lipstick.
Some lipstick.
I think it's called imposter syndrome. I think that's what people, when they feel like they're like, people are like looking at you in a certain thing, you're like, I'm not this guy. In some ways, that's one of the great things about writing the book, though, I will say that, because at this point, all right, they definitely know who you are, so you don't have to feel like. My wife makes fun of me that like on stage I often inhabit a different character. She's like, "Oh, you weren't Mikel tonight. You were Mac." Like Mac is sort of from the South, weirdly, drops a lot of y'alls and is like, "Y'all ready to rock?" And she's like, "Who is that dude? Like, I don't even know that guy. Like, just be yourself, man." And I was like, "No, if I'm being myself, I'm just gonna talk about how anxious I feel."
Is Coachella the only place you've puked before you got on stage?
I think so. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like super common. I remember the first time we played Lollapalooza, I was really, really nervous. But what was funny is we were sharing a dressing room with Snoop Dogg. It was like Snoop Dogg, us, and Vampire Weekend, and like, and Snoop Dogg walks back, and it's just this cloud of weed smoke around him at all times, and he's got these two bodyguards with like crushed velvet purple suits. You know what I mean? And he just like walks in, and we were just so starstruck with like we couldn't even think about our performance because we were just looking at like Snoop Dogg, like Snoop Dogg's right there.
Anyway, so get me back to you're a kid and you're listening to The Cure.
Yeah. So I met a friend. It's always like someone's older brother, right? This he was kind of like that. It was his new friend. He moved to town. He was this odd kid, and he sat by me in class. And this is like 5th grade. We're at like the height of like, white trash, Salem, Oregon, broke, Brazen Rabbits kind of stuff.
Is this, are you living where, just a reference from the book, is this the apartment you're in when they stole your record player?
No, that was in Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
This is where we had to raise the rabbits in the barn. I
people.
know, right? It's all we had, and they stole it. We had one possession.
A record player. That was it.
Literally, we didn't have anything else but like Goodwill clothes and like a hot plate and a record player, and then someone broke into our apartment and stole the
record player. And another thing.
And like broke a bunch of the records too, and we were just like, oh my God.
So anyway, I'm sorry. We're doing better. We're beating and skinning rabbits.
Yeah.
And this kid in class starts talking about The Cure.
Yeah, and I go to his house and he plays me, I think, The Head on the Door. And it just sounded weird to my ear at first. I was like, why do those guitars sound like they're underwater? And who's this guy kind of with this warbly scream? But then it's just like he was like these happy songs about sad things. Because a lot of it was like, especially that record, In Between Days and songs like that, where it's like these happy songs about sad things. And I just really was drawn to it. And it was like, he made me some tapes and I started listening to it all the time. And it was like, there was this moment where Robert Smith just was meeting me in my brain. And we were standing on this bridge and there was this connection. And it was just like all the things I couldn't put into words, he was putting into words. And it was feelings that I'd had that I'd just had gone unexpressed. And I'd listen to this sad, dark music, and I'd have like run-ins with my second stepdad, who was a real jerk. And I'd go back downstairs and I'd put on my headphones and just like scream into my pillow and listen to, like 100 Years or just, 17 Seconds or something. And it just, it made me feel less alone, I guess.
Right.
Like maybe seen. I felt seen, and because I felt so unseen during that time, and so I always felt like I had this sort of dialogue with Robert Smith in the music.
So so obviously the book's out in paperback now.
right.
Hollywood Park is out. That music is out. There's the new single. I guess, can we call it that? Yeah,
No,
the new
Faithless
single.
is the new
Sure.
single. Yeah, for sure.
And then at some point in a year or so, we'll get new music.
Yeah.
Unless you. Oh, I would go back to Medici for a second.
Sure.
Are like band friends of yours, not like from the Airborne, but like other artists? Are they kind of looking at it going like, oh, let's see
Yes.
what Mikel does?
Yes.
Because if that does well, that's
Right.
a total game changer.
Well, that's my idea, but one step at a time. But yes, there's a couple artists that I've been talking to that are very interested, and they're like, "Wait, what are you doing?" And then I'm sort of explaining. But right now, we're still kind of like, it's new territory. There's a lot of people said it wouldn't work, and it's really working, and it's all brand new. So we feel like we want to know it better, we want to understand it, and we want to make sure that we have best practices in place before I start bringing other people in. So
Sure.
I think probably it won't be for another few months before we do that.
And then at the end of it all, even though it may make you a little uncomfortable at times, I have to assume being out on the road is great.
It's so great. No, it's just joyful. I had a moment last night. It was our second night at 9:30 Club and sold out, and we're like just standing there on the stage towards the end of the set, and the rest of the band was playing an instrumental, and I was just looking at the audience and just trying to be present, instead of, because when you're performing, you're always thinking about the song, and you're thinking about what's next, and you're thinking about what you have to do to get ready for what's next, and how to direct the energy of the crowd or whatever. And I just try to take a moment and just looking around, all these people are just kind of swaying and sort of smiling. And there's just this wonderful, and I was like, what a gift this is
Right.
to have this in my life, especially because it's been so many years. I haven't really toured since my father died, and my life kind of fell apart. And then I wrote the book, and then COVID happened. And so it just really hit me like what a gift it is, and what a lucky position I have in life to be able to share these kinds of things with people, and they show up and they sing, and they're happy to be there too.
Well, dude, I'm glad you came in on a
I'm
day
so glad
off.
I did this. You are the most researched person. You know your stuff so well. I really appreciate this
I read the
interview.
book. That was it. That was the extent. The book is great.
That's
It really
a lot.
is.
That's like a 15-hour commitment.
Not if you read as slow as I do. Not if you
You're
read
like,
this slow.
Try 40.
Hollywood Park is out in paperback. New music, Faithless, the Airborne Toxic event on the road. Mikel, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.